In this video, I'm going to be answering the question, do backdrop people have souls? I'm going to show you a totally new way to look at reality that may blow your mind. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking more about what are called backdrop people. It's this understanding that came from a book by Dolores Cannon. And Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist that was around, she passed away I think about 5 to 8 years ago. And she developed a technique called QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And what this would do is this would get people to a very deep level of brainwave activity to where their higher self could come through, and then she could interview this person's higher self. And what she would do is ask questions like, why did this person incarnate at this time? What is this person's purpose in life? Anything to do with the soul or the person in general. And what she did is over thousands and thousands of these interviews, she created transcripts that she then put into books. And there is this one concept called backdrop people. I made a video on it about a couple weeks ago. Actually, when I was in Japan, I was like walking around with a whole bunch of people in the background talking about this idea. And I shared my unique perspective on it and what it may mean, plus what were my perspectives on it. And there were some questions that came up. People would ask questions like, well, do backdrop people have souls? What does this mean about backdrop people? Do backdrop people get wages? That was the funniest question, or the funniest suggestion in the comments. I'll link that video below. It's one that I was filming in Japan while walking around. It was a lot of fun. And it did very well, and I could see that people wanted to know more about it. So what I thought I would do in this video is explain it a little bit more. Now in that video, what I explained is that reality is a form of simulation. It is something that Elon Musk has said, it's something that quantum physics is showing us, and think of it like this. Our body is our avatar in this reality. We experience this reality through the 5 senses. However, there are vibrations that our body does not pick up on. There are senses that maybe we haven't even discovered yet, and that's because when we are going through this reality, we had to have some limitation as to who we are and how we relate to the outer world. And when we go through our life, we grow up thinking that this is who we are. And then a lot of times we, in a way, get kind of lost in that. We may think that we are our actual avatar, not aware that we are eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. And part of the purpose of life is to wake up to who we are. Now think of this when it comes to reality being a simulation. They already have technology that you could put on to where you would not know the difference between what is real and what is not real. And I've shared this story before, but I have worn one of those headsets before. It was just for the PlayStation, whatever, 17 or whatever it is. And I was, my cousin came, I was at my dad's house. My cousin came over, he brought over that technology. I put it on, looking around, and I actually felt like I was there. And it was even underwater. But I felt like I was watching this fish swim by. I was in this little cage. It was like a little snorkeling type VR headset, and I felt like I was snorkeling somewhere. And eventually the cage broke, and then I'm looking down far, and I start to get a little bit of vertigo, even though I'm in water. But the brain doesn't know the difference, so it'll still feel and have those emotions go through the body because it almost thinks it's real. Well, in the same way, because we're at the very beginning of this kind of technology, imagine in 10, 15, 20 years what that technology will be. We really won't know the difference between what is real and what is not real. What's to say that's not already happening at a greater level of consciousness? What's to say that we are not these eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences? Now, that is closer to what reality is than anything else. Reality is a form of simulation. Now, the backdrop people is this idea that Dolores Cannon had in one of her books. She didn't talk extensively about it, but there is a section on backdrop people. And backdrop people, the idea is that there are people in our life that may appear to be real, but nonetheless are what are called backdrop people. Just like in a movie, you may have that of the main character, the hero. You might then have some cameos in that movie. You might have the supporting role. You might have people that have smaller parts. But then eventually, you get to somebody that is the backdrop people. You get people that are the backdrop people that are just there to kind of walk around, to kind of go and fill up space and make it look real. And in the book with Dolores Cannon, when she was interviewing, someone's higher self and that information came through, it is suggested that there are people in reality that are these backdrop people. That are, because this is a simulation, they are just there to kind of take up space. And the question is, if you were to go up to a backdrop person, would you be able to interface with them? That's the question. Now, there is this question as well is, do backdrop people have souls? Now, the way I'm going to explain this to you is a little bit different than maybe the way you would explain it. Maybe you'd like a yes or no answer. Yes or no, do backdrop people have souls? Backdrop people are that of backdrop people in our lives, but we may also be the backdrop people in other people's lives. You see, this is what I talked about in the video that I made in Japan, because it becomes kind of dangerous. When we say that there are backdrop people, we assume that then there's people that don't have souls, and we may then be tempted to treat them a certain way since they're not real anyways. Here's the newsflash though. Everything in our reality is a form of simulation. So is it real? Is it not real? Where the experience of it is real. At a greater level though, everything is more of you. Everything is a reflection of the one consciousness. So when we look at something else and we say that's not real, or we give it and we put it on less of a pedestal than anything else, we start to get in dangerous territory. Because anytime we look down upon something or someone, that creates an energy imbalance, and that creates a higher level of ego. This becomes a very egoic concept if we start categorizing people as backdrop people or are not backdrop people, or people as real or not real. I don't even think the idea of backdrop people is that wrong. It's only when we say that somebody is less of a soul than someone else. Someone is less than, because backdrop people is just a relationship. We may be the backdrop people in other people's movie. But you see, here's the thing. Everything is a reflection of the one consciousness. We are all source energy experiencing ourselves through different little avatars to have new perspectives. But when we go out into the world, we experience a reflection of what we believe to be true. Now, if we have this hierarchy of backdrop people, cameos, supporting roles, and all this stuff, then it can be a little bit dangerous. Now, here's what I will say. Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix? In the movie The Matrix, it is pointing to the fact that reality is a simulation. And that we are in this matrix, this programmed way of thinking, but then eventually part of the purpose of life is to wake up from that dream, to wake up from that autopilot thinking. And that's what Neo goes through the process of. At the end, he realizes that he is the one. The one is a metaphor because we're all part of that one consciousness, but nonetheless, it's about the society, the 9-to-5 job, all of these things are a program, and you can use this all as a metaphor. When we talk about backdrop people, think of it as a metaphor. When we talk about the matrix, think of it as a metaphor. Because it's a programmed way of thinking, and most people are just doing the same things every day, feeling the same emotions every day, thinking the same thoughts every day, therefore getting the same results every day. They're in that matrix. So when we look to this, we could say, are people in this matrix, this form of matrix? And most likely, I think the reason that the matrix resonated with so many millions and millions of people, and it became like an instant cult classic, was because it resonated with people at a very deep level. Because that is kind of the way the reality really works. And it resonated with people at that deep level. Maybe people just thought it was a cool movie, but it has a lot of deep symbolism and a lot of deep metaphors in it. So when we look at this, this is the way I want to explain this. We are all individual, powerful beings who have, this is the thing too, is we don't have souls, we are souls. We're expressing ourselves through the physical body. But when we think about this in the term of the matrix, the perspective I want to give you to think about this, a little bit different than maybe you've heard anyone talk about this before, is imagine that the more source energy that you bring through, is the more of your soul that you're channeling into this reality. However, when we're in the programmed way of thinking in the matrix, and we're just robotically going through the same actions day in and day out, and we're on autopilot, we may not be allowing as much of that source energy to flow through. So in a way, our light will be dimmed. So we could say maybe for a period of time, someone in life is the backdrop people in general because they're just going through the repetitious actions over and over and over again. Then they may go through a spiritual awakening. They may start to have their reality shake up and they may demand more out of their life. And then they may go from a backdrop person to more of a supporting role or the cameo of their own movie. Most people are in response to their environment, and therefore they remain the backdrop people in everything, in every part of life. But understand, this is a metaphor. They still have a soul. But how much of that soul are they bringing into their current life? That's the question. How much of your soul are you bringing through? How much of you are you embodying? Or are you just repetitiously going through the same actions day in and day out? So the way that I see this whole backdrop people thing is many people are asleep in the matrix. They still are souls. Now, they don't have souls. They are souls that are experiencing reality through the five senses, and they're identifying with their avatar. But some people are so deep in the hypnosis that they don't allow that soul to come into their life as much. They don't allow higher vibrational emotions to flow through their body because they're too identified with the little ego structure that keeps them in the repetitious things day in and day out. When I was going through Japan recently, a month ago, and I was walking around, there's just so many people. But a lot of the people seem to be in that autopilot mind. That's everywhere you go, not just in Japan. But when I was filming that backdrop video, you could just kind of see that a lot of people are just in their own heads, in their own minds. Now, do they have souls? They are souls, but they may not be allowing as much of that soul energy through because they may be so identified with the little ego and in the repetitious thoughts that day in and day out that they don't allow that divine energy in. But there's still that divine being whether they're realizing it or not. You see, that's the paradox. It's just how much are they aware of it? How much have they woken up from the dream of life? How much have they woken up from the autopilot mind? So most likely if you're watching my videos then, you are already in the stages of waking up to more of who you are because you wouldn't perceive this video if you weren't. So you can have a lot of reassurance in knowing that. You're waking up. You're allowing more of this source energy to flow through. But the key that I want to offer to you, or something that I want to encourage you to do, is that you move from the backdrop person in your own life into the star role. You're meant to be a star in your own movie. But you may be playing the backdrop people in everyone else's movie. You may work a 9-to-5 job that you hate, supporting a company and making money for a company that you despise, but doing it because it's the autopilot mind and it's very comfortable. And if you would allow more of your higher vibrational energy in by you doing what you love, by you going for your passion, by you waking up from the autopilot mind, then you would find that you move from that of the backdrop person to more of the star role. It's just most people are at the effect in their own life. They're at the effect that everything that happens to them. And then they go down the path of least resistance, which is what is comfortable, which is the programmed way of thinking of the matrix. So let this whole backdrop people thing be a metaphor for, are you living in your life as the star role, or are you the cameo in someone else's movie? Are you trying to be in a relationship with someone and you just want to be in their movie? Come on, just let me in your movie. Let me be your supporting role. Let me be the cameo. And giving away your power. Instead, be the hero of your own movie. And let other people gravitate towards you. It's a very contagious energy. And if you feel like you're doing a job that you hate, then maybe start to intend that you find a job that you do love. Doing something because you want to do it. You see, this is about a different way that you show up in the world. Reality is a form of dream. Reality is both a dream and reality is also a form of simulation at the same time. Because we are eternal spiritual beings, dreaming this is who we are, but it's just a long, consistent dream. We have memory, we're able to tag all these things together. What I want to encourage you to do is to redefine your role in life. Does it matter if backdrop people have souls or not? I think this is one of those things that doesn't really make a difference. Because everything is a reflection of the one divine consciousness anyways. However, I would say that it is dangerous to get into this hierarchy of ego and you're not a soul and you are a soul. No, understand this is more about understanding it's a metaphor. I think that this was a metaphor. I think when that information is channeling through too, it goes through the belief system of the person that's channeled through. There was only a couple sessions where we're talking about backdrop people. It wasn't like everyone, out of the thousands of sessions in this QHHT process with Dolores Cannon, there was thousands on backdrop people. But there was general ones about how reality is a form of simulation. It's something that quantum physics is starting to show more now. But understand that it's more of a metaphor. It's more of a metaphor. We may be the backdrop people in other people's lives. This whole spiritual awakening thing may just be the crazies in that reality. They may look to us like as if we were like the people with like the tinfoil on the head or some shit. So understand that for all of this, it's about just being aware of how you are showing up in life. Be aware of how you are showing up in life. Be aware of whether you are the star of your own movie, the supporting role in someone else's, or the backdrop people in your own life. Become the star role. Understand that you don't have a soul. You are a soul. You are an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. If you can even perceive of this video, then just know that that is you. That is everyone. Some people may not resonate with that awareness right now. They may eventually in their lives, who knows? But know that you are more than you could possibly imagine. Reality is more flexible than you could possibly imagine. And when you let reality be more like a dream, it will become like a dream. So let it be flexible. But take back your role. It's time you take back your star role. And by taking that star role back, you will start to be more at the cause rather than at the effect in life. And you'll begin to wake up from being in the autopilot mind, and you'll start to direct your life in a very powerful way. So something else I have is a free guided meditation. I help you to raise your vibration. If you listen for 21 days, I think it'll absolutely transform your life. It'll be in the top of the description box below. Also, I'll be doing more live Q&As on Instagram. So if you have more questions about the backdrop people, you can ask me questions on Instagram. Right here, I post twice a day there, plus I do live Q&As quite often. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification gear so you can see the daily vids that I do. Also, let me know what you think about backdrop people below. Let's get a dialogue going. Let's talk about whether you think reality is a simulation or not. And I'll see you in the comment section. Other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.